This is Athletes as Educators with former pro basketball player, championship winning coach, and author Angela R. Lewis. Angie Lewis interviews current and former athletes who are passionate about sharing the lessons they've learned and the experiences that have shaped their lives. A resource for parents, a guide for student athletes, a source for current and former athletes, keys to transition off the court. Welcome to the Athletes as Educators podcast with Angela R. Lewis.
So Peppi, thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of the book to help college female athletes as they transition. Will you give a little bit about your background, where you went to college, and what sport you played?
Sure. So my name is Peppi Browne-Armstrong. Peppi Brown, pre-married. So if you want to Google me, there you go. I went to undergrad. I went to Duke University. Majored in biological anthropology and anatomy, electrical engineering, and biomedical engineering. After that, went to grad school at UNC. Trust me, no ill will there. But went to grad school at UNC, got my master's degree in biomedical engineering and minored in business as well. And then went to Wake Forest and got my MBA there.
I'm always blown away when I hear that. I'm like, oh, you're one of the smartest people I know. Okay, let me move on to the interview. I'm so blown away. What sport did you play in college?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, I played basketball in college. Unfortunately, they tried to get me to play soccer in college. Didn't work out because of the way the soccer season is actually before the basketball season, so I only ended up playing basketball in college. And
you said, unfortunately, because you love soccer?
Well, I love soccer, too. I actually probably played soccer longer than I played basketball, to be perfectly honest. It's a math thing. I won't go into it, but it's a mathematical reason as to why I end up choosing to play basketball instead, or at least getting a scholarship in basketball as opposed to in soccer.
Okay. And then what factors impacted your decision to go down this particular career path?
Well, okay, so in high school, I did go to a magnet school in high school, so we pretty much, had email addresses before, email was even cool or, mainstream, programs, all that type of stuff. So I guess from my standpoint, the projects that I did in high school kind of pretty much fostered what I felt like I wanted to do in college. So when I turned to, and I wasn't always when I got to Duke, I wasn't in the School of Engineering. I actually applied to get in after my sophomore year. But I started off anyway with biology because I always just wanted to do something with anatomy. Again, I think that stemmed from what I did in high school. We had additional dissecting credits and stuff that we could do in high school that I thought was great. So I just wanted to continue that in college. So, that's kind of what led me down that path initially. And then engineering because, hey, who loves to tinker with stuff? Me. So, I was able to blend both together.
Tell us about when you started college. What was that experience like?
So from a academic experience or a athletic experience, I guess.
Both.
Okay.
How did you balance that?
Okay, so again, I think I was lucky in high school. I took a lot of AP courses. So my freshman year kind of went pretty smoothly. I think the transition to get from high school to college was pretty smooth. I was able to take I don't want to say a light load, but a lighter load, and had basically some of the, the independent writing courses and that type of thing. I was able to go ahead and do directly because of the AP courses. So yes, that transition was pretty easy. I think athletically, or at least within my sport, I think I was in such good shape before I even got there that the transition into the grueling work of preseason again for me was actually pretty straightforward, not too bad. So my transition from high school to college really wasn't that bad. But honestly, I would take it because, or the reason I would say that is because I think my preparation was very good to the point where when I got there I was like, oh, okay, I can do this. It's nothing, whatever. So I would stress that for anybody kind of in that situation so far. Be prepared.
Yes, preparation is essential. Now, you were prepared on the front end. How did you prepare to leave college? And what was your first job? How did you secure your first job?
Okay, so my first job was actually at a pharmaceutical company, Eli Lilly and Company, a large pharmaceutical company here in the States. Um, how I secured it, I basically went to, and this is not just something that I did my senior year. So let me start by saying that I went to all of the, as many as I could, because obviously you have practice, the job fairs that were at Duke that came to my school. A lot of times, several of them I missed because I didn't even know they were around, and then I started literally asking just all of my non-athletic friends, like, hey, what's going on, that type of thing. And so after a while, it was like, oh, so and so is coming here, or there were some, they called it like interview sessions, or where it's basically the hiring manager, maybe a couple others from maybe some of the local companies that will come and have a session in like a big, well, that was a huge room, but in like a classroom. And then anybody interested in working for that company could come in, join and sit in and ask questions and put their resume down. So it's kind of more of like a one-on-one situation. So I went to those two. I really tried hard not to miss any of them, such that, I had my, kind of, again, being prepared. I had my stuff ready so that by the time I finished, if I wasn't going to play basketball going out, I would have a job lined up just like any other college student that was there. And so that's kind of how it happened for me. I met and went to several interview sessions with Eli Lilly. And then I got, I guess, the first official letter of acceptance, or not acceptance, but employment, I guess that early April.
So you went to info sessions, and then you applied.
I went to info sessions, and they also came to the job fairs.
Okay.
So every year, I guess because Eli Lilly, they had a branch that was local to the Durham area. Every year, Eli Lilly had a booth. So every year, I was at that booth, and I got to know the hiring manager and people every year. Oh yeah, hey, how you doing? The first couple times it was more like shooting the breeze, like, okay, what do you guys have available? I did my research at the beginning. I knew I knew they were a pharmaceutical company. I knew several other things, but for the most part, when I went to those job fairs, I was trying to get to know the people so they would recognize me when my resume came over. Oh yeah, I met this girl. She did blah 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 blah. We talked. She's really cool. That type of thing. That was the first couple of times. That was really the goal. And then yes, by the time junior senior year, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm ready for the job part. And don't forget about me. Remember me, smile on face. That type of thing. So did the same thing with info sessions. So the same people, and that's a lot of things too. It's the same people that go to the info sessions that are at these job fairs. Same people. Get to know them, especially if you're really doing your research and targeting a company. That's pretty much what I did.
So it sounds like you had a strategy in place. You had a game plan.
I usually have, yes. I will say I have a plan A, plan B, plan C, and a plan D. I try to go all the way down to plan D just in case. Because, you never, there's some things I can control and there's some things I just can't control. I couldn't control getting my, tearing my ACL. Can't control that. But hey, I played plan B, and if that didn't work out, plan C, plan D, So there was a game plan. I'm not going to,
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
And that's what makes your story so amazing, because most people who I've talked to don't have that game plan. What was your thought process with wanting to work at Eli Lilly? Why did you pick that company? And I ask because a lot of the young women who I've spoke with recently don't know how to make the decision.
Mm-hmm.
Is it based on the location? Is it based on benefits? How do you make the decision on your first job?
Okay, so one was location. I did pick about 5 locations where I would want to live, and a lot of that had to do with places where I was comfortable, living. I looked at the cost of living. I looked at where my family was. I looked at, I love to travel. I still love to travel. But I was looking at, okay, access in and out. If I have to run, go real quick to DC, Is that, can I do that? And I've done that, for how many years before that, quick flight down to Florida, I could handle that, go to Atlanta real quick, I could handle that where my family was, right? So there were kind of a couple places where I was like, okay, I know the market. I kind of had an idea of the job market, had an idea of the housing market. You definitely got to look at benefits, hands down, got to look at those benefits. Don't forget those benefits, it's very important.
What are some benefits?
Okay, so this is another interesting topic I'd like to talk about, because people always think benefits are like, okay, health benefits, how much I'm getting paid, that type of thing. Yes, that is important, but there's other benefits that people overlook that they can use in the negotiating process when they are, at that final stage of a job. Like, am I going to get, company stock after a certain number of years or months even when I'm there? Vacation hours. Now, vacation is very important. Everybody needs to make sure they get out, but most people don't know. Yeah, you get the average 2 weeks. A lot of times you're not allowed to vest that until after you work 5 months. Sometimes you can vest that right away, because again, you never know what's going to happen. So those type of things you can, non-monetary benefits are negotiable in many cases. Those are the two things that have kind of come up as kind of the forefront, and they were for me. But don't forget about those. Working from home. Can I work from home? 2-3 times a week, get some stuff done. Is that all right? That type of thing. Flexible working hours. Some people have, work for 4, off for 2, something like that. There's a lot of things that are negotiable. So I will also tell people, don't forget about those intangibles when you're looking for a job.
That is awesome. Absolutely awesome advice. What has been...
Oh, sorry, that was me.
It's okay.
Somebody emailing me.
What has been your career progression since your first job?
So my first job, it was more so, again, I wanted to both do programming and science. So my first job was an automation engineer. So when you're doing, basically I was in the lab pretty much, and then running the experiments in the lab to do the drug testing. And this is very, very early stage drug testing. And of course, because it's like very, very tiny aliquots of liquid, you actually have to program the machine to do what you wanted it to do. Move, 10 milliliters from here to over there, but it's like 365 of them at the same time. So you have to program that at the same time. Obviously, check to make sure it works, that type of thing. So that's kind of pretty much what I did in my first job. I liked it. I liked the interaction. But in my second job, I felt like I wanted to be a little bit more towards the customer. I think because when you're very early stage in pharma, you don't know if this particular drug or whole sets of drugs you're working on is even going to make it up to the end goal. And for me, that was something where, you know what, I like to know what that end result is. So my next job was like, okay, let me see if I can get in front of the customer or more in front of the client. From there. And at the same time, that's when I started my graduate work as well. So I was getting some patient interaction as well. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let me see if I can find something like that. It so happened that Medicare Part D came along from the legislation. And then all of a sudden they were like, can anybody program that knows how to do related to anything medical, whatever. And they were just hiring. So I was like, I can do programming. I definitely know medical stuff. So, the jargon, I can do that. So I worked for the federal government on Medicare Part D, which was very eye-opening because now I'm working directly with the person across the table from me who's trying to apply and can't understand it. And we're trying to make sure it's automated. And it was just fun job, very interesting. But from there, I learned, okay, that's a little bit too in front of the customer. So I had to pull back a little bit. And then that's also when I decided to get an MBA after that, because I knew I wanted to do more of the business side. I want to see the end result, but I also want to be able to use my brain and be a little bit more, not that I wasn't using my brain before, but somebody was telling me directly what to do in my second job. All right, you know what, you got to do this, that, just do it. I don't care how you do it, just do it, right? Whereas I felt like if I got my MBA, I'd be able to say, okay, you know what, here's the problem overall. Let's see how I can solve it. and it was a little bit more of a strategy type job or position I was kind of going for. Again, using all the other skills that I acquired, beforehand. So then, obviously, when I left the MBA, I went to go to IBM, and decided on marketing because I just thought marketing was cool, and I could do drawing and design, and do a little bit more of my other creative side of my brain, as well. Not that I don't program now, because clearly I do, but I'm able to now do some social media aspects. Doing a look, learn how to do logos and look at the fit and just the way how things, I guess, are imagined or thought of as, pretty or nice, or, what's aesthetically pleasing. The fact that people walk into the store and they go to the right because we drive on the right hand side. I mean, it's stuff a little like that. Like, oh, I didn't think about that. Maybe I should put my billboard here. Or so there's like little subtle things that I think I learned in MBA while getting my MBA that I think have led me to this current position where I'm at now. So I'm able to do almost all three of those things, except for the biology part. I'm not doing too much biology anymore, unfortunately, except for maybe ergonomics, but I'll get there at some point.
That's really interesting that you saw that you wanted to learn something new, and then you made a decision to go after and go to school and learn something new. What's your recommendation for constant learning? And how did you know? So how did you know to go get the MBA? Like, how did you know which degrees to pursue?
Well, the short answer is I didn't know. I mean, I had to ask. I literally, all right, you know what? Because even after undergrad, people were saying, let me rephrase this. Because, back in the day, they were actually paying, the companies would pay for you to go get your degree, to go to school, which, by the way, is another intangible that you need to make sure that you can try and get in there if you can. So I was like, look, you're going to pay for me. Hey, let's see what's my options. Let's see what I could do, whatever, and still work, but I still have to like it because, it's going to be grueling. The same double schedule that you had in undergrad, instead of doing, going from practice to class, you going from work to class. It's the same juggling, so it's not going to be easy. So I better like it. So that's what prompted me to go to school the first time. And then, yes, I had, I looked at all these different options. Obviously, I went to interview at different schools and, saw what they had and that type of thing. The decision to go back to business school was different because then now I had to pay. So I was like, look, if I have to pay, I got to really make sure I know what I'm doing because I'm not getting this money back, one. But even at the same time, I went through I think I went through more info sessions related to getting my MBA than anything else, just because I knew the sheer amount of just the price tag of getting your MBA, and you want to make sure that you get the best school possible for you and all that good stuff. There's a lot more that went into it, at least for me, than going to grad school the first time. I hate to say it seems like a broken record, but as with everything, you kind of have to just ask and prepare. My motto is no question is a dumb question. Even in class, yes, I will be that one that, look, if I don't understand, I'm asking you 10 zillion times. Okay, no, why did you put that there? I'm raising my hand, that's just me. That's how I operate.
So being inquisitive.
And I usually tell the people that I tutor, I was like, look, just because you asked the question, that doesn't mean the person next to you did not know, or, they didn't have the same question. They probably did. And so I looked at it that way. Look, all these people in the classroom, they just might not be afraid to step up. But I've done it for years, so I'm going to go ahead and just take that one for the team, I guess. I don't care. But anyway, that went off topic. But for all of that, though, everything was, research. You got internet now. You have LinkedIn. I will say I used LinkedIn, and I think probably because it wasn't really as big when I went to grad school the first time. But during my MBA, I was in LinkedIn. I mean, I was LinkedIn master all day. Just who I got, where am I going? I went to, large national wide job fairs. I mean, you flew all the way to California, flew all the way to Atlanta. Well, that's not that far, but flew all the way to St. Louis. Did case competitions, did anything that I could sign up for within that 2-year period. I did. I don't care what it was. I'm just making sure my name got out there because, again, you want to make sure that you are known. You're going to be there and do all this work. Somebody got to get you a job afterwards so you can pay for that bill. So,
now, did you get your MBA full time? Were you in school full time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, and that was the other thing. I did quit my job so that I can go full time, which is, again, why I really was paying. It's 2 years, yes, but it's pretty much do or die. If I didn't make the most of it, again, I wasn't going to get that money back. I wasn't going to get those 2 years back. So, hey, I'm going to sign up for everything I can sign up for, make the most of it.
This leads into the next question is, what are some challenges you faced as you made different career choices? So how did you come to the decision that I'm going to quit my job, all the benefits that come along with it, and then go back to school?
I think part of it was when I did the research for getting an MBA, because you can get an MBA part-time too. It's not that you couldn't. And I actually applied for part-time MBAs too, as well as full-time. But for me, what I wanted to do, it was looked at as a total career or transitional switch. Which, if I was trying to get an MBA but still stay within the realms of maybe pharmaceutical or biotech or something like that, the advice I was given was, okay, yeah, then you can go part-time because you already have the past knowledge and experience within the healthcare industry that, people clearly look at, oh, okay, she's got an MBA, so now she knows the business side of all that other tech stuff that she was doing before. But for me, I wanted to broaden my horizons to not necessarily get outside of, I should say not be pigeonholed within the healthcare field. I mean, if a marketing agency wanted me to come in and they were doing marketing for Johnson & Johnson, which was in healthcare, hey, then I felt like I was going to be a good fit for that. So I didn't want to give anybody the excuse of, oh, well, she wasn't fully committed to really trying to change her goal, change their trajectory or anything else. She wasn't really committed because she only did it part-time. I wasn't going to give him that excuse. So, also, I think if I was going part-time, I wouldn't have been able to go to some of those national events either. So, I mean, it was a little bit of both. But I would say it's more related to the first part, though.
Makes sense. So what about challenges? Did you face any challenges as you made different career choices?
Yeah. Other than, one challenge was, yes, showing people my resume, and they see biotech all up and down, or healthcare all up and down, and then I want to do marketing. I mean, some people wouldn't even look at my resume for a while. They're like, why? What do you have to bring to the table? And then I had to, go through it. So needless to say, yeah, I struggle with my resume a lot. I think especially the second go around to get a job, I struggle with my resume a lot. I think also I went to get my MBA. I was one of the older students there.
How old were you at the time?
Probably 30. At least 30. This has only been 6. Yeah, at least 30. Somewhere in there. I was already married. I already had a kid. And he was 1, by the way, when I first started. So, so that was a struggle. So doing that full time and then having to go home, get dinner prepared, having to go, pick them up from daycare, drop them off at daycare, make sure the diapers were there. That type of thing was a struggle. Well, it wasn't so much a struggle for me. It was more so my teammates, the interaction with some of my teammates, because they didn't quite understand. Like, wait, what do you mean you have to leave at 3 to go pick up your kid? Like, no, we need to do this project now. And I'm like, no, I have to drive an hour and a half. So y'all can sit here. We can do this over the phone and over my speaker system in the car. And that's how we're going to do it.
Right.
Don't talk to me until y'all have a family. And so a lot of times I was butting heads with people because of that. My professors were a little bit more understandable in that, whereas they gave everybody else, the written documents, whatever. Several of my professors, because they knew I was driving back and forth, gave me audio files of the same packet so I can listen to it on the way home and on the way back. So, but again, it would have been a struggle if I had not made it known to them, like, hey, this is the situation. I'm here. I'm committed. And they realized I was committed. If I didn't say anything, if I didn't speak up, it would have probably been even bigger struggle. So, again, I guess related to that kind of lesson, don't be afraid to just tell people what the situation is, and be perfectly upfront with them. A lot of times they probably went through the same thing, and they'll be sympathetic. I would say my other struggle was, again, I think being an older student. For me, grades was not. I didn't care.
Yeah.
Didn't care. I didn't go. It's not that I didn't get good grades. I mean, clearly I was doing all right. But my goal is to learn. Period. Point blank. End of story. I don't need to have the A plus 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 plus. Don't need it. Did I learn the subject? Did I know how to apply it? When I go out to the job, do I know what I'm doing? Great. Fine. And that's how I went through grad school doing that. Again, not everybody lives this way. So some people took it as, okay, she's not really, she's slacking off, whatever. I was like, no. My priority is family, then work. That's it. So I'm still going to learn. I'm going to work while you guys are partying, drinking beer, whatever. I'm still going to work. Like, you don't have to worry about that. So again, it was more so, again, butting heads with the people I was working with, as opposed to any particular problems or issues with the work itself.
Got you.
If that makes any sense.
Yep, it makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. Another question they ask is, in what ways do you de-stress from your work environment?
One way is I try not to stress at all. Just try not to, like, at the end of the day, me getting a heart attack is not worth this job. So, yeah, I'm going to try not to stress. That's just my rule 101. But, honestly, I pretty much, before I had kids, married, whatever, I pretty much go exercise, hang out. I, by the way, do not have a gym membership. I refuse to get one because I feel like working out should be free. I need to go up in the park, whatever, do some tricep pulls or whatever on the little bar hanging up over there. Fine. That's free. I'll go outside. No problem. But, as long as, I get a workout in, go ride my bike, do something, it's usually pretty much okay. Once I, got a house, everything, oddly enough, cutting the grass, because that was like 2 hours. You could pretend, I can't hear you. You're in your zone, right? You just moving along, cutting the grass with a push mower. And even now, I think I tend to do creative projects away from anything really that stresses me out, be it work or wherever else. So it's kind of like, oh, you know what? I think I'll redesign the deck. Mm-hmm. Let me see how I'm going to do that, whatever. And, so I guess the short story is I'm usually doing something that is total opposite maybe of what I was doing at work or doing at school or doing somewhere else. I was just over here. If I was doing science all day, I'm not doing nothing related to science when I'm off work. Like, forget it. I guess at the end of the day, too, you find what you love. Mm-hmm. And if you're lucky enough, you're doing a job that you really, really love. If you're lucky. If you're not that lucky, then make sure you do have time out, even if it is you got to take 2 hours out of your calendar to do what it is you love to do, then block it off. I started to do that now, and it's made a whole lot of difference because then you get refreshed when you come back and all right, time to go to work. Think of it as a 2-hour practice, and then you got to come back to work. That's it.
Another question is when you do not agree with the morals, ethics, or policies in your work environment, how do you handle it, or what methods do you use to resolve conflict?
That's a tough one. My go-to is I usually look at people strange. Like I would just give you a really long, like you didn't really just say that to me just now. Seriously? Look. I think for me, I don't know if I would qualify this as an advantage or not. I think because I am bigger, once I give you that look, they kind of like, okay, I kind of, did something wrong, messed up. All right, I'm gonna go over here, and that's usually the end of it. With at least with the females, with the guys, they always, they come when they come close to me, they're always standing very up straight and making me look taller and all that type of stuff. In which case, when I mean business, I come in with 3-inch heels, and then they still kind of sit down. But I will say, I guess, even with my work right now, I think I have more. The conflict I have with the guys is usually a lot more verbal, which for me probably works better because I'd rather you just tell me, and then we're just gonna work it out. I don't care. What I found with more of the females that I work with is a lot less verbal, kind of like, oh, maybe could you, kind of do that, which doesn't really. I'll totally miss that. For me, unfortunately, I won't register as they see something as a conflict because I'm like, why don't you just say something? Why don't you just call me, send me a text, send me email? You got my phone number. Like, I don't understand. So yeah, I've started to learn to kind of tune into that type of conflict, and again, I'm a little bit not conflict, but trying to resolve that type of conflict, and be a little bit more, okay, no worries, we'll figure it out, that type of thing. That's something I clearly had to work on. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't know. I guess I again prefer a look. Let's just talk it out. It's probably something we're missing in here. I do make the assumption that people are not trying to be vindictive or harmful or whatever. I think going in it with that mindset will help.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of get to a general resolution.
So the mental approach to conflict is what matters most.
Yeah, you gotta notice that something's not right. Again, that's kind of more tuning, and that I had to learn. And then, beyond that, assume. I mean, I guess why not assume that people are just a misunderstanding. All right, we'll work it out. It's no big deal. Don't stress over it. I'm not gonna stress over some argument. No.
Right. no.
Not happening.
Last question. What are some examples of the ways you've used what you've learned in sport in your day-to-day work life?
I do think sport. Well, okay, let me back up a little bit. From a team sport aspect, I do think having to work with different personalities, even though everybody's on the same team and the same goal, having already to kind of be exposed to working with people with different personalities definitely does help. Mm-hmm. The unfortunate part is most people that do sports kind of have they're the same type of people, but I mean, in general, but it's not that you still learn to deal with some of the nuances there. But even so, I think if you were doing an individual sport, just the fact that you have, okay, this is a start and this is where I have to go, what I have to do, what's the path, how do I train to get there? Mm-hmm. Individual or team, actually, I should say that, is kind of key. I mean, if you heard anything throughout the entire chapter, or what have you,
Chapter.
was that I was trying very hard to be methodical with the process, because it's one thing. There's three things that you do not get back: time, money, and energy. So you have to manage those three. I was taught that from very early. I mean, it's ingrained in the brain: time, money, and energy. So if something is going to take a good chunk of my time, good chunk of my money, good chunk of my energy, I better know how to manage it properly. And I think sports does that, especially if you're going, well, if you're doing even in high school, right? Because you got to go to class and you got to go to your practice right after. And college, same thing, except you might have, training table on top of that, and a couple other things, voluntary, mandatory practice, that type of thing on top of that. But the rules doesn't change. It's just what pulls at your time does over the years, but it's the same type of mentality, I think, just from high school all the way through. Just to be prepared.
That's perfect. That's like the perfect close. Is there, I thought that was awesome. Time, money, energy. That's great. Maybe that would be the title of your chapter. Do you have anything else? Is there anything else you'd like to mention that wasn't anything I asked? Any other advice?
I will say this. When you brought the project to my attention, my wheels just started turning. That's why I don't sleep that much. It's pretty sad, but it's okay because I like it. It's cool.
Right.
What we decided to do, because I think in our last interview, I talked about how the camaraderie of being a student athlete is similar to being a veteran or being in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find that there are so many military programs, and rightfully so, helping the veterans once they come off of tour or whatever, basically, get back into workforce, get back into the job, or get back into regular life. I'll say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that is sorely missing in the athletic world, because again, you're in athletic mode. I mean, from 5 all the way through, and all of a sudden it's like, for some people, I'm like, okay, I gotta get a job. So I know as part of a program we're actually going and getting the implementations of it. We're calling it kind of the teammate program. That as long as you played an organized sport, in the States, anywhere in the world, for at least 2 years of your life, you dedicated at least 2 years of your life, we would like to provide you, at least from a sales opportunity, to work with us to get a basically direct commission off the top if you are able to sell the program to an institution or a club team or what have you. Again, just kind of giving people a way to transition. Maybe they may not like sales, and if they don't, that's fine. But if they've never tried it, you never know.
Right.
But it allows them to have a job within sports still, so it's not total cold turkey. Now, as you remember, like I said, I do camps and stuff just to make sure I'm still in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not cold turkey, but it's a program to, again, try and help people transition from playing sports to the job market.
What's the job? What are they?
So
is it docents?
it's with docents itself. So it's basically a sales. It's basically a sales program as well. We're calling it the teammate program.
Awesome.
Again, because in my opinion, we're all family.
Mm-hmm.
Just prove that you've done 2 years of, I won't say hard time. That's not it. 2 years of athletic,
Mm-hmm.
Organized athletic sports. And again, because our goal is to get this all over the world,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is something that worldwide people can relate to.
Absolutely.
And a lot of those people have those connections already.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be a way to help us, but also a way to kind of give back and help them. And then if they want to stay on, great. We'd love to have you. You keep getting your commission and everything.
Right.
But if that doesn't seem like the right thing to do, at least you're now in the job frame of mind and you have something to put on your resume. Like, hey, I've done a sales job, which, by the way, I don't know why I didn't mention this before. I found out the hard way that if you have even a modicum, iota of sales somewhere in your resume gets pushed up to the top.
That's important. Yep. Sales is like, sales is essential for business. Business doesn't happen without salespeople.
Exactly. And
but no one tells you that.
No one tells you that until I'm like, yo, what is this? I have a good friend. I mean, she's hugely talented. I mean, she can get any job she wants. But before she went to get her MBA, she did sales. And that's all she had to say to people half the time. I mean, granted, she's brilliant, she's smart, she could do what, again, hands down, one of the best business people I know. But they didn't even have to get to all that. She was like, look, I did sales for blah, blah, blah company. We made $300 million, da-da-da-da. Done.
Yep.
That's all she had to say. And I was like, daggone it. I got to get sales somewhere. So even my current position, I'm now able to put that on my resume that I have actually closed deals.
Yep.
So yes, if you can get some type of sales, I will say do it. That was a side note. But again, like I said, you talking about this book, and I was like, you know what? We should probably do that. We need a sales force, but let's hire a sales force of people who kind of know what the industry is, know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And it can be implemented fairly quickly and all over the world.
Yep.
So anyway, we hope people start to do that, moving forward.
Let's talk offline about that, like whenever I push stop, because I want to talk more in depth and figure out how I can help you with some people in this region.
Yeah, sure thing. Anyway, so that was the last of it. Plan. I know it's hard or boring or just monotonous or whatever, but
how do you plan? How do you plan?
How do you plan?
Yeah, what's your thought process when creating a plan?
Well, first, again, you got to know the end goal, right?
With the end in mind.
If it isn't, you got. That's the first thing. If you don't know where you're going, then you can't plan for it, right? Most of the time, it's the other things that are usually involved are usually related to money, of course. Usually related to time, 40 hours a week or whatever it is. How much time is going to be pulling on you, right? Or that you're going to have to allocate to whatever it is you're trying to do. And then lastly, it's usually a regional question. And the reason I say that is, okay, people have to live somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They got to be able to afford it. There's a reason why there is a teacher shortage in Hawaii. Nobody can afford to live there, right? But that's something you have to, take into account when you're getting, a job. If you need, you get kids, you got people around that can help you. What's the thing? It takes a village. Mm-hmm. It does take a village. Don't let anybody tell you differently. It takes a village. I mean, a village of man-made whatever. People we meet at daycare. Oh, yeah, can you pick my kid up because we late? No problem. Got you. Next time. Oh, man, I'm on an accident. Whatever. Got you. No problem. If you don't have a village, make sure you know you're in a place where you can create a village.
Yep.
Number 2. So I kind of with that, and then because money's tight for everybody, and expenses just happen, and you don't even know. There's a lot you have to take into account, and like most of it is related to time and money, and then where you want to live. If you start your planning that way, you're pretty much okay. The other questions will start to pop up once you be like, okay, that's expensive. I can't do that. Oh, well, what about this? Or what about this? It'll start to pop up.
I was about to close, but I can't yet. But because I want to talk about this, because a lot of what is being told is follow your passion, follow your passion, follow your passion. But if that doesn't align with the time, the money, that you can't. I was talking to a young lady today. You want to follow your passion, but you're not gonna be able to eat.
Right.
Like you're talking about going to work at City Year and they're gonna give you $1,000 stipend a month, but you don't come from money. Like how you gonna live? Well, they said maybe I can live with somebody. Like, no, sweet. Like, I know that you want to help people, but you can't live. So I'm going to need you to go do something else.
Yeah. I mean, you do want to, again, if you're lucky, you can follow your passion, whatever. As I said in the podcast the other day, I chose to follow my passion on somebody else's dime. Because I knew I got to live. I got to eat. I got to live somewhere, whatever. But if you do it on somebody, start your passion. If it's not readily available to you, that doesn't mean you shouldn't give up on your passion.
Exactly.
That's not what we're saying.
That's key.
We're saying is, or basically all I'm saying is just do it. Start it on the side.
Yep.
Start on the side. Start on your business. Start making those connections. Start doing that on the side, again, on somebody else's dime. Still get that paycheck. Still get those benefits. Still get that, working from home. You work from home sometimes, block off 2 hours so you can do your little passion, you know what I'm saying, on the side. Knowing that, right, again, that was what I decided to do. It's not for everybody, but if you think about it in another way, you kind of were already doing it in college, right? You were getting your education on somebody else's dime, but don't say you weren't working hard for it. You were definitely working hard for it, but that's what you were doing, right? You were doing your passion on somebody else's dime.
That's a really great point.
You were already doing it. So what makes what makes this any different once you get out of into the workforce in the real world? Not that college is in the real world, but I'm saying, I mean, but what makes it any different? You already were doing it. You have the backbone, you have the skill, you have the knowledge, you were already doing it. So just continue. It's just a different, instead of juggling a basketball, a book, and I don't know, a watermelon or something, you juggling, some finance deal. Take the basketball out, you juggling money on top of it or something like that. You were already doing it.
Awesome. Thank you
This
so much,
is
Peppi.
Athletes as Educators.
Thank you for listening to the Athletes as Educators podcast. Connect with me through the Athletes as Educators Facebook page or at Athletes Educate on Instagram. Be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode, and go over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. For more resources and information about today's podcast, you can check us out at AngelaRLewis.com.